Why does mentioning fried chicken and watermelon considered racist against black people? I'm a black American and I had the joy of having lived and worked for several years in several countries in the East. Vietnam, Korea, Japan, China, Thailand and Malaysia included. It's important to remember that racism is as much about intention as anything else. It's important that we try to education ourselves. Which is exactly what you're doing here. Congrats. I think travel is also a big part of that. That all being said, I see no racism in your words here. Unfortunately, there's a stereotype in the black American community of Asians being racist. Which could mean that this guy was just unconsciously waiting for you to make a mistake that confirmed preconceptions he had about you. He likely assumed that you knew more than you do about the negative depictions of blacks as being lazy ne'er-do-wells, liking chicken and watermelon. These depictions went on for years. You can still watch old cartoons with that stuff in them on YouTube. The problem is not with chicken or watermelon. It's with the dehumanizing depiction. He thought you had heard of and were playing into that stereotype, when you were really just offering him some tasty food you yourself enjoyed. He might have been in a better position to understand and not be so sensitive had he lived for a little while in your country. That's what we need, I think. More interaction and understanding. It's unfortunate that with our species and our history, the ghost of these sorts of hateful little episodes are still primed to pop up from time to time to ruin an otherwise perfectly nice afternoon. I'm sorry for both of you. The history. I actually was so curious about this. I deep dived into it a long while back. Learned some interesting things I didn't know before. The fried chicken stereotype was born from necessity of navigating the Underground Railway to escape slavery. Slaves needed food that would keep for long periods of time, because they never knew when the next safe house would be. Fried meat is perfect for this, as the oil and breading create a barrier from the outside air to the meat. It was perfect for the long journey they would have ahead of them and keeping their food from spoiling. The watermelon stereotype was born from pure hate during the Jim Crow era. Watermelon used to be considered a lazy person's fruit, because it generally needed to be eaten with two hands, and was large, unlike one-handed fruit. During the Jim Crow era, propaganda posters and articles were created to associate black Americans with watermelon, trying to state that they were lazy. History did its thing, and now we have leftover stereotypes. There's a stereotype, bad joke about black people and watermelon, fried chicken, and grape soda. I just want to share a small story. I was drinking a grape soda at work and my boss stopped me and said, "I knew you were black. I'm gonna bring in some watermelon and fried chicken." Someone almost always comments when I eat or drink these foods. These weird, "Look, there's a black person doing the thing" moments make us feel self-conscious. I kid you not. I actually won't buy or eat watermelon in front of strangers, even though I love it. I know you absolutely had no ill intent, but I bet your friend has some stories like mine. You asked a perfectly honest question, but other people have probably asked that same question in a racist way. There was a point in the post-Civil War US where black farmers were growing watermelons and seeing excellent profits from them. Poor white farmers didn't like seeing black people with money and they began to deride black farmers for any association with watermelon. It was an effort to keep black farmers from having profitable watermelon crops. It's a dumb stereotype. Virtually everyone enjoys watermelon. It's sad, but I've had a couple of black friends tell me that they don't feel comfortable eating watermelon in public because they don't want to reinforce the stereotype. Edit. Grammar mistake. What you did wasn't racist and the reaction it received was definitely by someone hypersensitive. However, blacks in the US have been negativity portrayed in the past using watermelons and chicken. That blacks and other poor people did eat a lot of chicken and watermelon is based on historical facts. Many poor people had chickens because they produced eggs and provided meat. Watermelon was frequently eaten also because it's incredibly easy to grow, and seeds from one melon can be easily stored to provide seed for the following year. The reason watermelon in particular is sensitive is because racists used to justify slavery by saying black people are like dumb cattle. A little shade and a slice of watermelon keeps the Negro happy. If you did it mockingly or said it in a hateful tone, then it might be different. But asking a genuine question innocently and receiving, "Are you a racist?" response is usually because the person you're directing the question to is most likely sensitive to racism because of past experiences, or they're racist themselves and use any excuse to deflect their own issues away. Fried chicken and watermelon were popular foods in the African American food community. A lot of old cartoons and advertisements depicted offensive images of black people eating these foods. You can Google Tom and Jerry watermelon racist and go to images to get an idea of what I am talking about. Tom and Jerry was an extremely popular cartoon during the time when black people were still being restricted on their voting rights, so some of the humor is quite offensive and racist. There's actually a parental warning if you purchase the DVDs on Amazon stating such. The show still runs, but they quit making these jokes decades ago. I think this can be put down to a difference in cultures rather than anything malicious. Op may want to speak to the colleague in question and explain that you were not aware of the racist implications and that in your culture, watermelon and fruit for dessert is very common. I think context matters, but fried chicken and watermelon has been an enduring racist stereotype used in popular culture at least since the mid-19th century. Obviously, you didn't intend to offend, but being sensitive to this history is important. It might be that your coworker was bringing this to your attention so that you will understand how it could be misunderstood. KFC is my favorite place to eat chicken, and I'm a white dude from eastern Kentucky. Also, watermelon in the summertime is delicious. But I don't like getting seeds in my mouth. Dave Chappelle said it best. If you don't like chicken and watermelon, that means something is wrong with you. It used to be said as an insult, because it's a very long-standing stereotype of African Americans in the United States. It sounds like he explained it perfectly without having to retell the history of minstrel shows and racial marketing. Just ask if he'd like to grab some fruit or ice cream or tea for dessert. Leave the watermelon specifically out of it. You might not have known. It'd be like assuming that since you're East Asian you must be good at math and you've eaten cat before. Thanks for all the answers. I learned a lot today. No hate for my coworker though. He probably experienced first-hand racism and felt uncomfortable with what I said. I'll apologize to him properly next week. If you didn't mean to be racist, explain you have learned why it's offensive and apologize, and you should be good. If you Google it, you will see a lot of videos and articles explaining what others have said. I've only heard this being an issue for upper middle class POC. Never heard someone bitch about it who worked for a living. It is reinforcing a stereotype. Comments about fried chicken and watermelon, etc. have been used to try and keep black people in their lane, particularly if they are excelling at a role traditionally held by white people. There was a very infamous quote by Fuzzy Zoeller about Tiger Woods back when Tiger won his first Masters. Don't sweat it too much. but just take it as a lesson learned. There is history there that you are not aware of. Sounds like your friend took it in stride and is also trying to help. I'm never mentioning watermelon in a conversation ever again. American history would explain. These tropes go back to the Jim Crow era, American apartheid, and was ingrained in American culture through early American media. There are lots of articles regarding how watermelon, in particular, became associated with black people. Just Google, racism watermelon black people, and you'll get a slew. I think because you're Asian, it's a good opportunity to explain to your friend that fruit is a common dessert option and you didn't know the history. Apologize. Though even if you didn't intend to, you did offend your friend.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.